Hey, what's happening YouTube? I'm Kevin from Simpledrummer.com. In this video, we're going to be talking about some of the key tools and strategies that every drummer needs to have in place. I've met a lot of drummers that plateau and they reach a point where they don't feel they're growing anymore. Most of the time, it's because there's an area of their drumming that's been completely overlooked. We're going to go over 7 key things that every drummer needs to have in their practicing in order to keep growing and achieving their goals. This is 7 Steps to Drumming Heaven, and we're starting now. So this is one that might surprise you. I've spoken to a lot of my students lately and asked them who they follow on social media. I'm amazed to hear that almost all of them weren't following any drummers. They were just taking lessons, learning to do their thing, but not really checking out what other people were doing. It's nice to have ongoing things that you're working on, but sometimes you might have a short amount of practice time, or you might just want to dive into something small and simple that's kind of cool. Instagram is the best for that. I can't tell you how many times I've saved a post that I've seen from a drummer I follow, and then later been practicing, gone back to that post, and practiced that lick. This is an incredible source of inspiration if you use it properly. But be warned, there is a caveat. Social media can suck up your practice time and make it disappear. So when you're working at your drums, that isn't the time to scroll for content. That's the time for playing and using any content that you may have found earlier. On your off time, that's when you want to scroll through content and explore, find something to work on later, or just something that you like. When you use social media this way, it's going to fuel your motivation because you're going to continuously get to practice a variety of little nuggets that'll bring you success on a small level, and that feels good. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can stay in the loop for all of our future videos. Taking a one-on-one lesson with anyone who's a qualified drum instructor or just a really great drummer that you know can offer so much insight into your own playing as well as what you need to reach some of your drumming goals. What's great about this is that we often overlook some of our own weaknesses, but when you're in this environment where you let someone observe you and challenge you, take you out of the box a little, then they can see what you're really made of. They can see your strengths and weaknesses, and often will recommend something that you probably had never thought of. Now, you can certainly take lessons in person by going to a music school or music store in your area, but you can also turn to the internet. There are so many amazing drummers out there offering one-on-one lessons over video conferencing like Skype and Zoom. It's such a valuable experience whether you do this in person or online, and I recommend it for every drummer, whether you're doing it regularly or once a year, but this type of experience can have a profound effect on your practicing and your drumming overall. Hey, by the way, if you're finding any of this stuff to be helpful, hit the like button, because it's a little show of support that goes a long way and I totally appreciate that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't learn to play the drums without the use of notation. Of course you can. There's many people out there who would say that they're an ear player. Your memory and your listening skills are great to strengthen, but they're not 100% reliable. When you work on something, if some time goes by, you can easily forget some of the details or just be unsure whether you're doing it the same way you were the day before. Writing obviously gives you the skill to document the things that you do, but it also gives you the ability to communicate that information back and forth. You can be on the internet and you can receive something that has notation, whether it's a post or a download, and you can look at it and make sense of what they're communicating to you. The other thing about reading notation is that it's 100% reliable. When you know what the notes mean, they tell you the same thing every time and you can count on it. If you don't know how to read notation, then check out the link in the description, which will take you to my free lesson all about reading music for the drums. There's a side of being a drummer that involves being a musician. You want to have really good listening skills, be able to synchronize with other musicians, and make sense of the parts that they're playing. The best way to work on your listening and musical skills are to play with tunes. This is such an incredibly important thing to do because you're exposing your ears to all the different instruments, the parts that they play, as well as hearing what the drummer plays in that instance. So it helps you to build a sense of musical taste and knowing what's appropriate in what situation. This type of experience you cannot get from a book or watching a video online. Once you've done this a number of times, your listening skills become stronger, your ability to interpret the music and what you're hearing becomes a lot better. So if you're not the type of drummer that's working on tunes on a regular basis, you should be. Start now and just go one at a time. See if you can take it all the way by learning all the parts, putting them together, and playing with the recorded song. When you can do that, you can add it to a playlist and that'll become your repertoire. Let's pause for a moment for a quick plug. If you're looking for some direction in your practicing and you want to dive into some lessons, check out Simpledrummer.com. Every lesson comes with additional tools like a progress tracker, PDF downloads, a built-in metronome, and more. It's important for every drummer to learn how to balance their practice time. You want to make sure that you don't spend all your time doing one thing. That's no good. There are so many different areas of music and drumming to explore that you want to try to divide up your time so that it's balanced. One of the easiest ways to do this is to aim for the 50-50 approach. 50% work, 50% play. So in the work area, you've got things like reading notation, practicing exercises and drills, and working on new concepts in general. Anything that makes you think and have to pay attention to what your hands and your feet are doing. There are also things that are very inward. You're really concentrated on yourself, how you sound and what you're doing on the drums. Then you want to balance that with 50% play and creativity time. Now there's lots of things that would be included in that area. You could spend some time improvising and just working on your own flow. You could be jamming along to some tunes or jamming along with other people. Anything that's creative and has something to do with music, because that's taking you outwards. You're now taking the things you've learned on the drums and expressing something outward with it. So it's a different mental approach, not to mention it's a different side of your brain that you're working when you do that kind of thing. Some of you are going to roll your eyes when you hear me say this, but one of the most important things that every drummer needs to do is count. Whenever you learn to play anything, the instructor always tells you how it should be counted. 1 and 2 and, or 1E and a, 2E and a. When you're counting, that enables you to hear the subdivision, which is the rhythmic template that you're using. So you want to hear that rhythm and be able to accurately play off of it. I've met a lot of drummers who have learned a lot and come a long way, but when the counting hasn't been there, their little hiccups in time are pretty obvious. When you count out loud, you're not only thinking it, you're also speaking it and, more importantly, hearing it with your ears. This is the way to train your subconscious instinct for keeping time. The only way to do that is to hear your voice all the time. It starts to become second nature, and that's what you want. I've definitely laid out some of the most important aspects of drumming, but if you feel like I've missed something important, let us know in the comments below. And finally, the number one thing, in my opinion, that's going to take you to drumming heaven is the idea of frequent practice. Guys, we have to make a separation here between focusing on quantity of practice, which is how many hours you've spent at the kit, and frequency, how often you're doing it. You can ask any drummer who you would consider to be great or successful what their secret is. Most of them will tell you it's all about doing what you love every day. And that's so true. The reason for this is because when you go an extended period of time without any practice between your sessions, your mind and your body inevitably start to forget some of the things that you more recently learned. So when you sit down to practice again, although you spend a lot of time, some of that time is devoted to relearning the material again. The most important thing is frequency. If you can make this a part of your regular everyday life, that's the secret to getting to drumming heaven. There's nothing quite like feeling motivated and that you're reaching your drumming goals. It's something that we want to achieve for most of our drumming journey. I hope what we've talked about today has helped to give you some good insight and maybe helped you to reconsider areas that you've overlooked in your drumming practice. I'm Kevin from Simpledrummer.com, and I'll see you next time.